We live in a passionate universe. When we say the universe is a love story, we mean it's a passionate universe. And it's only my willingness to actually reclaim my passion. And my passion involves my outrage. I've got to begin with outrage. I'm outraged by the way it is. David, crazy great to be with you, David, right? And I'm not going to do does David look like Mr. Rogers? He's got a little bit of Mr. Rogers going on there, right? He's beautiful, David, right? Oh my God, read us the code and resonate the code and take us inside, man.
What is the character of the outrageous lover? And why do we call it outrageous love and not unlimited love? Because outrageous love is animated by both outrage and love. Outrage and love come together in a higher synergy of sacred activism. The outrageous lover is filled with pure joy, and yet the purity of the outrageous lover is always tinged with paradox. It is a joy and paradox that merge outrage and love into a higher union of outrageous love. I'll just do it one more time. What is the character of the outrageous lover? And why do we call it outrageous love and not unlimited love? Because outrageous love is animated by outrage and love. Outrage and love come together in a higher synergy of sacred activism. The outrageous lover is filled with pure joy, and yet the purity of the outrageous lover is always tinged with paradox. It is joy and paradox that merge outrage and love into the higher union of outrageous love. With love, I turn my word to you, beloved Dr. Marc.
Thank you so much. So let's dive in, and we're going to finish today with prayer, like we always do. But this is a big, huge week. Okay, so here we go. We've set our intention. Our intention is telling the new story of value. It's very easy to scream on a soapbox and polarize. Doesn't take much. And we need some people screaming on soapboxes, and that's good. But that's not going to take us home. What's going to take us home is the Da Vinci move, is telling the new story of value, doing the hard work of gathering the validated insights, weaving them into a story, downloading them into culture as visionaries. It's a Darwin, Freud level move. In the 20th century, we don't remember much, but we remember Marx and Freud and Darwin and Einstein, because those four people, for better and worse, changed the source code. We've got to change the source code. That's what we're here to do. So I want to focus today on one, with your permission, everyone, on one dimension of this new story of value, which is encoded in the sentence that we've been looking at basically the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're in this conversation around outrageous love. And we've talked about in some real depth 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you can look up the earlier episodes of One Mountain. It wasn't last week or the week before, it was 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago. We talked in great depth about the 10 principles of outrageous love and what outrageous love means. And outrageous love, not as just human love, which is very beautiful but it's in its contracted form. Human love as an expression of cultural mores, human love as a drive to get some security or status to avoid what we feel is the emptiness. Human love as this narrow human trait in which I love one person and that's the end of my love list. And I want that person to give me everything and I want to give them everything. And if those 2 or 3 relationships don't work, I'm shattered. But that's ordinary love. And ordinary love is a strategy of the ego. Outrageous love, when human love participates in the very current of cosmos, which is called Eros, that's outrageous love. When human love participates in the very current of cosmos itself, that's called Eros, that's called outrageous love. So we live in a world of outrageous pain. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. And we spend the last 2 weeks talking about what that means. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. That's the last 2 weeks. And anyone who wants to go deeply into that, take a look at on the One Mountain site last week and the week before. What I want to do now is focus on something else. I want to focus on the word outrageous, with your permission. What is this thing we're calling outrageous love? Why is it outrageous? And I've shared with people before, with a lot of love and honor from my friend John Mackey. John and I had and I said this on stage at the Success 3.0 conference we did a bunch of years back. And so I said it publicly, and John and I laughed about it. So I wouldn't repeat it if it was only a private conversation. So John wrote me once and he said, and John was our board chair at the center. And John's a grocer, by the way. He started a company called Whole Foods, which he's since left. He's starting a new company. We built this huge and beautiful gift to the United States in terms of revisioning how we eat, called Whole Foods. So John wrote me a text one day, or a note, and he said, Mark, outrageous is troublesome. We can't call it outrageous. Let's call it, maybe unlimited love. So we don't have that notion of outrage, which has some anger in it, and it's just, a little bit outrageous. Let's go for unlimited love. So, I wrote John a funny response, and we had a long talk about it. And I want to just share a little bit with you. Why is it outrageous love? Because it's a very important piece of this new story of value. So first off, just check into your body. And our bodies are wise, right? The book of Job, chapter 19 from the classical Hebrew text. And it says, "Mipsari echazeh Eloha." Through my body, I vision spirit. So my body is wise. And anyone who's done deep practice in the body knows. The body has profound wisdom. And the body holds a kind of cellular wisdom. So my body's wise. So stay with me for a second. So just in your body, just do a little experiment for a second, right? So when we say we live in a world of outrageous pain, the only response is outrageous love. Okay. What if we say we live in a world of unlimited pain, the only response is unlimited love? Does it do the same thing? It doesn't. The word outrageous and unlimited are different words, and they evoke something different in our body. Who gets that? Just quick look at the chat box. Who gets that just in your body in a second? It's a different word, right? So the word, right, there's something about the word outrageous which is itself outrageous. Now, in the original lineage text of the Song of Solomon, the text reads, Azah kimavet ahava. Love is as outrageous as death. Wow. Azah, and feel the word in your body, azah, right? Azah, right? Azah. So azah is outrageous. And just feel that outrageous for a second. Love is as outrageous as death. So the experience of death changes everything. We understand that. Now, this is not a talk on death, and how we relate to death is unimaginably important. And it's very clear based on the validated insights that we've gathered in the last 200 years that death is not the end of the story, that death is a night between 2 days, that there's a continuity of consciousness after death. I'm not going to talk about that now. I've had myself direct experiences of deep communion with someone who's passed, where that communion wasn't clearly not a hallucination, but was more real than anything I've ever experienced. It's not just my personal experience, but actually there's a direct knowing. You can actually access that knowing in the body. And the body does know, right? You can't separate the body, the embodiment, from the mind. The mind, right? While we're in our bodies, the mind and the entire brain, right? And the heart, and actually all of the cells are actually non-locally connected. And so the body actually has wisdom. Now, how do you access the wisdom of the body? How do you clarify the wisdom of the body? Right? Is a conversation which is not our conversation right now. But the body actually has wisdom. Right? Through my body, I vision spirit is not wrong. Almost any action that you have to decide whether to take, you can go to your mind to check it. You can go to your heart to check it, but you can also go to your body. And when you learn to listen to the wisdom of the body actually tells you things. Now, it's not easy to listen to the wisdom of the body, and the body sometimes makes short-term demands. So I need to get into the deeper wisdom of the body. But the wisdom of the body that likes 5 Baby Ruth bars is pseudo-eros. The wisdom of the body that yearns and is nourished by great food and knows well, right, that I've got to sit in that great food and actually is attracted to a deeper way of eating, that's different wisdom. And you actually can tell in your body, for example, before any sexual encounter, you go deep into your body actually knows whether this is an ethical encounter. It's a very deep idea, but that's a different conversation. Let's just find it right now. Just find in your body the distinction between outrageous and unlimited. And words play in the body. Right? The body listens to words. That's how language works. Right? Language, right, expresses itself in mind and heart and body. And language can't emerge without a relationship to all three. But let's bracket all that. Let's just stay with the word outrageous. Everyone in outrageous now? Outrageous. We live in a world of outrageous pain, right? The only response is outrageous love. So first, right, in the word outrageous, there's this dimension of rage. And John actually said to me, he said, I don't like this dimension of rage, but you actually need the dimension of rage. The dimension of rage matters. It's not all of outrageous, but it's a dimension. You actually have to be willing to get mad. You got to be willing to get angry, because anger is a form of arousal. Now, there's a form of anger, which is egoic, self-absorbed, narcissistic, superficial. There's a form of anger, which is pseudo-eros, where I can't find the fullness of who I am. So I get angry to give myself a quick hit of pseudo-eros, kind of like taking a quick hit of cocaine, right? Or too many hits of whiskey, or sexing that I don't really want to be doing, or the 4th or 5th Baby Ruth bar, right? So there's a dimension of anger, which is an addictive acting out, a form of pseudo-eros. But there's another form of anger, of sacred outrage, of holy outrage. Okay, everyone feel that? There's a form of anger, which is the anger of the prophet. And in one text in the 3rd century, in Aramaic, the text talks about reticha deoraita, the holy outrage of the prophet. And the holy outrage of the prophet doesn't lead me to kill or to massacre. It leads me to transform reality. And it leads me to stand on the abyss of darkness and say, it's got to be more. It's got to be better. I take responsibility for transformation. I take responsibility for making the world, right, a different place than it is now. But I can't feel that unless I'm willing to be outraged. But if I'm not willing to be outraged, then I can't actually begin to take action. So, right, yeah, Turkey, what happened? What was happened, right? You don't even have time to be outraged. You watch the news quickly. You're not willing to sit in the outrage. Now, let's see a clip for a second. I want to see a clip if we can, just for a second. It's from Howard Beale. It's one of my favorite clips from a movie 25 years ago where a television commentator is fired, and they give him one more talk on the air. And for the first time, he speaks the truth. And it's a prophetic moment. That notion of prophecy, reticha deoraita, the holy outrage, is actually captured in this clip. And it's part of this notion of outrageous love. Outrageous love has to include in it holy outrage. It's not all of the word outrageous, but it's a dimension. And I want to unpack with you a couple of dimensions today. So let's take a look at that clip. Christina Amelon, thank you so much for bringing us inside. Let's just kind of watch it carefully, right? This is a scene of prophecy. And sometimes the prophet doesn't even know that they're prophesying. And as this man begins to speak all over the world, everyone stops and they begin to listen to him. Because real prophecy actually evokes our heart and our mind and our body. So let's take a look.
Have ever had. The 13 nations of OPEC have still not been able to decide by how much to increase the price of oil. Saudi Arabia...
How much time we got?
Yesterday, for further consultations with his government, he returned to the Vienna... This is Ed Fletcher in Vienna.
Take 2, Q Howard.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out?
You've got to get mad.
67.
Say,
I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Who are you talking to, Herb?
CGG Atlanta.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted?
But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
They're yelling in Baton Rouge.
Get up out of your...
Son of a bitch! We struck the mother lode!
Stick your head out of the window, open it, and stick your head out and keep yelling and yell, I'm as mad as hell, I'm not going to take this anymore. Just get up from your chairs right now. Go to
Where
the
you
window.
going? I want to see if anybody's
Just go
yelling.
to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling. I'm mad as hell! I'm not going to take this anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not going to take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell!
I'm mad as hell!
So if you're willing for 1 second, go to the chat box. If you're willing, it's not so easy to access. This is not a spectator sport. Who's willing to do it? Right? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. That's the practice. That's the first practice of outrageous. I'm actually willing to get mad. Who's willing to do it? Not so easy to do, is it? I'm mad. It's not polite. It's not new age, not sweet. Right? It's not all sweetness and light, writes Rudolf Otto, right? In his great book, The Idea of the Holy, the numinous includes outrage, right? I'm mad as hell. Who's willing to do it? Let go of the ego, let go of the smallness, right? I am the prophet, right? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore, right? I'm mad as hell, right? I am the prophet. I'm looking at what is, and it can't be this way. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore, right? It takes something, and you're sitting by your chat box, you're saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's too much. He's asking too much. I can do the sweet thing, right? I can do the kind of participant in the evolution of love thing, but this is too much. I can't do this. I can't access that, right? I'm mad as hell. I am mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore. Who's willing to come to the keyboard? Who's willing to step in? Who's willing to step in for a minute? Actually, take responsibility. Your rage is the beginning of outrageous love, right? But you got to first access the rage. If you can't access the rage, that's not the end of it. It's not the end of the story. It's not the end, but you can't skip this step. If you're not willing to be mad as hell, you're not going to change the thing, right? In anything, including myself. I'm mad as hell. And my rage matters and it counts. It's not unlimited love. But I get unlimited love. Unlimited love is tepid and flaccid, right? And boring, right? And ordinary, right? And it's just talking about something we don't even know what it is. It doesn't jump out of our body. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. Now, what's the scene about? Friends, everybody. What's the scene? I'm outraged. What's the scene about? The scene's an incredible scene, right? It's an incredible scene. This Howard Beale has been fired, right? He's been fired. And he's devolving. He's going through an episode, which psychology is defined as a psychotic episode because psychology doesn't know what to do with as mad as hell. You go to the therapist and they prescribe you a set of drugs, right? Which actually pharmacologically can often destroy you, right? Because psychology doesn't know how to hold the root of the sacred that's at the core of a lot of psychotic episodes. And actually, there's no great virtue in being well adjusted in a maladjusted society, right? If you're sane, if you think you're perfectly sane and perfectly normal in an insane society, well, then there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with all of us if we don't actually get as mad as hell. Okay, I've got to be staying in control and I've got to be doing the win-lose metrics game and I got to show up in a particular way and everyone's got to think about me in a particular way and I'm at a cocktail party and I need people to like me and I need to have a certain kind of social circle, right? And I got to stay appropriate here because otherwise I won't survive. I'll be cast out by the tribe. No, it's insane. So get mad. And the beginning of outrageous love is the willing heart that says, I'm willing to be mad as hell. Now, again, it's not surface anger. It's not the anger of losing your temper in a show of narcissism, right? It's not destructive anger, right? It's not abusive anger. It's none of those things. It's not any of those. That's not what we're talking about. Those are all pseudo-eros. Everyone get that distinction? Abusive anger, destructive anger, that's all pseudo-eros. Narcissistic anger, pseudo-eros. But there's an eros of anger. And actually the original lineage word for anger is chema, C-H-E-M-A-H, which derives from the two-letter root in the original Hebrew and Aramaic, chom, and chom means love. So love and chema means outrageous anger. So the actual original word in the lineage text is outrage, and love is the same word. Wow, right? And the Song of Solomon writes, Azak kamavet ahava, love is as outrageous as death. So feel that sense of outrage. And the sense of outrage comes from the knowing it's not supposed to be this way. Not supposed to be this way. It can't be this way. It's not okay. Now, notice in the clip, did I ever notice in the clip? If you notice in the clip, they give him the microphone as this kind of last moment to usher him out. And all of a sudden he starts talking and people start listening. And the woman, I think it's Faye Dunaway, right? Who's this kind of classical win-lose metrics woman. She's a tragic figure in the movie. She senses a commodified opportunity. What she wants to do is she wants to commodify his rage and use it to get more ratings. It's this cynical moment, this commodify that let's grab his rage, let's commodify it. That happens a lot to spirituality, right? It's seized and commodified and sold. So we're not trying to commodify something here, right? Outrageous love is rooted in outrage, and that outrage has to be pure. Now, I get it, friends. I get it. You can't live in outrage all the time. Of course you can't. That's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the story. You can't walk around outraged in a sense or in a way that burns your gut and causes you to ulcerate your soul. but you've got to begin an outrage. The prophet begins an outrage. And we have to be prophets. We have to speak prophecy. We need new prophets. But new prophets means we've got to be willing to see around the corner. We've got to be willing to not just see around the corner and speak truth to power and turn over the money carts in the temple. That's not enough. We have to hold out a cogent and coherent and compelling vision of what the new possibility is. What is the new possible human? If we can't articulate in our body and in ourselves the new possible human, right? What the fulfillment of Homo sapien looks like, the fulfillment of Homo sapien, which is Homo amor. If I can't do that, then the outrage destroys me. So I begin with outrage. I'm outraged. It's not okay. I refuse to look away. Robert J. Lipton wrote a book called Facing Apocalypse. I refuse to look away. I refuse to be anesthetized. Right? I refuse to be deadened. I refuse to become Pink Floyd 30 years ago, comfortably numb. I want the pleasure of outrage. And can I just share with you something personal, if I can, if that's okay? I get a certain amount of critique for, getting too excited. Why am I not doing this kind of, dispassionate podcast where you're kind of talking like this and explaining and why is Gafni getting excited? That's evangelical. Really? Really? I mean, are we not aroused by outrageous pain? Are we dispassionate in talking about outrageous pain? Right? Has passion become the ultimate sin? Do we only associate passion with its pathologies and not with its potency? We don't need to. We live in a passionate universe. When we say the universe is a love story, we mean it's a passionate universe. And it's only my willingness to actually reclaim my passion. And my passion involves my outrage. I've got to begin with outrage. I'm outraged by the way it is. And I'm not willing to be, how did Aldous Huxley write it? I'm not willing to be anesthetized by what he called soma. And so much of religion, whether it's the New Age version or the old version, is soma. Let's anesthetize us. And by the way, conspiracy theorists can be soma also. I just get anesthetized by my screaming all the time at what's wrong, but I actually don't take myself seriously enough to take my seat at the table to actually get involved in making it right. And so let's take our seat at the table. And this is a phrase I've been using for the last few years, but I forgot about. And then I started a beautiful set of conversation with a dear friend. And that phrase came back in my mind. And we've been talking about what it means to take your seat at the table. So, from that conversation, I'm bringing that to all of us, right? We're taking our seat at the table, and meaning we're willing to get outraged, but then we can't stop at outrage. If you stop at outrage, it destroys you, right? I've got to be willing to actually step into love, not just love, but outrageous love. And outrageous love is not ordinary love. Outrageous love feels different. It looks different. It tastes different. Outrageous love meaning I'm willing to put it all on the line. I'm willing to stop thinking through my trauma pattern. I'm willing to stop thinking through my obsessive self-involvement, even though I should be self-involved and I should be working on my transformation. I should do everything for my family, my son, my brother, my daughter, my sister, right? But my family's got to get bigger. Our love lists are too short. So I've got to become an outrageous lover. I've got to love myself, but outrageously. And when you love yourself outrageously, you can break the trauma pattern. And when I love you outrageously, I can break you through the trauma pattern if we're willing to stay in. Stay in. Stay in. Don't leave the table. I'm willing to stay in. I'm not leaving the table. No matter what happens, I'm here at the table. We're going to work it through. We're going to hold hands. And we're going to love outrageously. And to love outrageously is to love beyond your love lists and to love in a deeper, wider way. Right? And to be willing to give all of yourself. And I want to just, if I can, I'm looking at the time, it's 2:12. So I want to just two more things and we're going to go to prayer. Okay. So we're willing to, so I want to read you something for a second, okay? This is a story. And this is January 2nd, 2007. And I'm reading from, a text that tells the story, Wesley Autry. True story. It's a 50-year-old American black man, a construction worker. He's a Navy veteran. He's waiting for a subway train in Manhattan. His two daughters, to about 12:45 a.m. And Autry notices a young man. The man's name turns out to be Cameron Holopeter. He's about 20. He's having a seizure. And Cameron kind of gets to his feet and but he stumbles from the platform onto the tracks between two rails. Autry sees the light of an approaching train and he makes an instantaneous decision, outrageous love. He jumps onto the tracks thinking he'd have time to drag Holopeter away. He then realizes in an instant that's impossible. So he covers Holopeter's body with his own and presses Holopeter and himself down into a drainage ditch that's about a foot deep in the tracks. Right? The train operator tries to stop. The brakes screech. But by the time he could stop the train, 5 cars had passed over the two men. It was the closest of close calls. The cars were so close to Autry that they smudged grease on his blue knit cap. Autry hears outlookers screaming, and he yells back, "We're okay down here, but I got 2 daughters up there on the track. Let them know their father's okay." And then he hears cries of wonder and applause from the bystanders. Holopeter, who was a student at the New York Film Academy, is taken to the hospital, but he just had bumps and bruises. Autry didn't need medical help. He said nothing's wrong. And when the New York Times interviewed him, Autry said, "I don't think I did something spectacular. I just saw someone who needed help. And I did what I felt was right." And then he said, "I used to be a construction worker, so I'm good at working in confined spaces. And it looks, I had a sense that this might work." Wow. Right? Wow. And he became, of course, a celebrity overnight, and gifts poured in and scholarships and, college tuition for his kids and season tickets to the New Jersey Nets. And, he was named a CNN hero and all of that. And he was a guest in Congress in the United States and given a standing ovation. But why? Because he knew something. He was outrageous. He knew in that moment that there was something to be done. And it didn't make sense, and he didn't know the man, and he didn't have time to think, but he actually embodied something that lives in us that's true, which is we're actually connected. We're actually part of the one heart, and we're part of the one Eros, and we're part of the one mind. We're unique and distinct and individuated and wildly valuable, irreducibly unique parts, but we're part of. We're not separate from. And that separateness is an optical delusion of consciousness, as Albert Einstein correctly wrote. And he knew in that one moment, the one heart. And that jumping in was true. And it was good. And it was beautiful. And he was named a hero because he spoke a truth that everyone knew, but he lived into it. See, we think our outrageous love is only for our family. It's only for my son or my daughter or my brother or my sister. No, that's not what outrageous love is. Outrageous love is outrageous. It's outrageous. I'm willing to put it all on the line, but it doesn't mean for most of us jumping on the subway tracks, right? But it means showing up beyond your comfort zone. It means showing up and resourcing with your time. Shows up. I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to give you one more example. We're going to close with this, okay? So, see if I can show this to you. See if I have it here. Do I have it here? I don't, but I'm going to try and describe it to you anyways. There's something in the Hebrew wisdom lineage, right, which is called phylacteries, and they are these black leather instruments that you wrap on your hand. You can look them up in English. They're called tefillin, Teffilin. tefillin, phylacteries. And they've been passed down in the lineage for like 3,200 years. And part of my personal practice is that I wear them every day for the last, few decades. And it's my private practice, and in my public life, I'm a global citizen and I hope a galactic citizen. I think that's what we need to be. But in my practice, I also practice in the lineage of the original masters of my life. Now, I'm not wealthy. As a matter of fact, I'm probably poor by any definition of funding. And I just bought this pair of, they're called a pair because there's two sets. There's one you wear on your head. There's another you wear on your arm. And I just bought this very, very, very expensive pair that was like $1,500. And I was really excited, to have it. And then I was giving a talk at an event run by a colleague of mine at the time, Eben, called MetaMind. And there was a brilliant musician there. And he comes to me and we start talking and he says, I was born into that same lineage you were, and I lost connection to it. And I have this desire, right, that I want to connect to it. And I said to him, like literally without missing a beat, it was just obvious to me. I said, wow, I just bought this beautiful pair of what are called phylacteries, tefillin, leather straps. It's a beautiful ritual. And I'm sure that I bought them for you. Let me show you how they work. And I gave them to him. And he took them and he received them. And we put them on. And they've been with him since. And I think someone might have sent me online someplace where he told the story. I've never seen him again. But those were his. It was clear as day to me. It wasn't, those are his. Right? That's what outrageous love means. Outrageous love means we step up for each other, right? And we show up for each other, and we show up full on outrageously. Outrageously. It's not ordinary. It's a willingness to show up with outrageous love, right? There was a time, and it's got to do with finances. There was a time in my life where I was making a lot of money when I was in Israel, because I was just doing a lot of speeches, and I met a friend. And that friend needed $60,000. And at that time in my life, I happened to have about $60,000 in the bank. He needed it more than I did. I wrote him a check for $60,000. End of story. True. That's how you have to live. You have to live outrageously, not irresponsibly, but outrageously. Write a check of your smile. Write a check of your open heart. Write a check of your love. Right? Write a check of your attention. Write a check of the way you show up. But there's a check that you need to write every day. And that check has your signature on it. And that check is your outrageous act of love. Because that's what an outrageous lover does. An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. And here's the crazy thing. It's the most healing thing you can do. The most healing, transformative act you can do in your life is to commit outrageous acts of love, not as a one-time event, but as part of the fabric of your life. I am an outrageous lover. And most of those acts may be symbolic. You can't give people $60,000 every day because you're out of money, at least for me, in a day. But your life becomes part of a fabric, which is part of the outrageous love of the universe that's moving uniquely through you. And the way you listen is outrageous. The way you forgive is outrageous. The way you take a stand is outrageous. But you live in that place of outrageous. And it's you access the energy of the rage, but then you transmute the rage into love. In other words, the outrageous stops being outrageous anger, but that same rejection of the status quo, which lives in the prophetic rage, then becomes love. And the prophets are described as the erotic maiden who is the mad lover of Song of Songs. So the prophet in the lineage is called the Bat Melech, the daughter of the king. the mad lover. The prophet is the one who in her body, in his body, she loves madly. He gives her radiance. She shows up. She walks into a room and she says, not what can I get out of this room, but what can I pour into this room? We walk into rooms and we say, what can I get out of this room? What did I get out of this broadcast? What would it mean to pour my energy, subtle energy into this broadcast? And oh my God, and we can actually feel it exploding in the space, right? To be an outrageous lover is to commit outrageous acts of love. And next week, we're going to talk about all about outrageous acts of love. And what does it mean we're going to commit to each other outrageous acts of love? But for now, let me just close with this and we go to prayer, right? Evolution is love in action. And my hands are the hands of evolution. My hands are the hands of God. And my feet are the feet of God. And my embodiment is the embodiment of the divine. And I live to be outrageous love. And I live to commit outrageous acts of love, not that take down my life, that expand my life, that make me alive. And every single day, I want to weave together a tapestry of outrageous love. And you got to do it uniquely. There's a way to do it in your life. But when you do that, you get healthier, you get stronger, you get more alive, you get more filled with joy, you get more aligned with your true nature. And we begin to play our instrument in the unique self symphony, not as Homo sapien who's trying to figure out, what can I get out of this, right? Have I gotten enough from this person that they deserve my love? Actually become an outrageous lover. I'm going to show up just because, right? Sometimes you meet someone every once in a long while. You can't do it often. You meet someone, you say, I'm going to show up for this person just because, right? Can't do that with everyone. Can't do it a lot, but once in a while, I'm going to show up just because I'm in. Outrageous love. It's the only truth. We live in a world of outrageous pain, right? The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love.